Hello and welcome back. We are here continuing our Victoria 3 run as the world. Last episode we did kind of most of the last big people we took out, including a couple of our subjects, and I realized in retrospect that was a bit of a mistake, because even though we swapped power blocks once this run, I realized we really don't need aggressive coordination 1 anymore. The minus 30% war gold maneuver cost for the diplomatic play initiator, not that important, and we actually want to try and get kind of some stuff that will maybe let us boost our eco, some principal groups. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to leave this power block. The only circumstance in which it might be useful is we maybe can't annex all of Italy in one war. But I think it's okay if we take it with 2 wars, and I think that the slight chance that they might side against us, allowing us, when we go for one of like Switzerland or Sardinia Piedmont, maybe it's the case that we don't even need these maneuvers anyways. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap power blocks yet again, and we're going to come back with a brand new power block, and what we're going to form is the Trade League block, because the Trade League block becomes very, very quickly, you generate mandate very, very quickly. Now the reason why we shouldn't have annexed all of our subjects is they would have been really great for helping us generate more mandate, and now we won't gain access to that, whereas we could have. The main reason we weren't caring about it last episode is because we resigned ourselves to, we probably only get 1 more principal for the rest of the run under military treaty, but not the case with Trade League. Trade League, you will always have max cohesion, or almost always have max cohesion, so it's pretty good for generating mandate. Alright, so when I was testing this and looking at it before, one of the random names you can roll is the Paris Convention. And who better to lead the Paris Convention than, of course, the United Kingdom? And by the United Kingdom, I mean the globe, the singularity. So we're actually going to go with Paris Convention as the new name. We are going to have our sitting man, who, by the way, you can have 2 crude hoes if you're the sitting man. So we have crude hoes in hand, or 1 crude hoe in the hand, 1 off to the side. That's the side crude hoe, you know what I mean? And then also, we are going to be going internal trade, which is going to be decent, or at least reasonable, for increasing our economy, because we are going to get the company throughput bonus on here. I don't think we're going to level this up. I have a sneaking suspicion we don't need any sort of trade bonuses when we're the only country, and we're all going to end up going isolationism anyways, except it's blocked by laissez-faire, so you can't go it, so maybe we don't end up going it. But external trade's not going to be too useful because we don't have any trade routes anymore, so influential trade center doesn't make any sense, so we will be going internal trade. Also, the fact that we have a market is kind of irrelevant, so we will form the Paris Convention. As you know, everyone remembers the history when the United Kingdom formed the Paris Convention as a stepping stone on their world conquest domination. So there's a couple ways you could approach corporation for maximizing GDP by the end date. I decided that I thought it was probably better to incorporate for the 10% MAPI bonus, and just look to incorporate everything, but not everything's going to get incorporated by the end date, especially these 20-year incorporations, and it's possible that colonial exploitation would be better. We might actually swap to colonial exploitation off of the colonization strategy we currently have, with the idea that all the places that are not yet incorporated or fully incorporated are going to get the 10% bonus, but they also get a manufacturing penalty. So I don't know if that's overall worth it, considering how much manufacturing we have in China to try and alleviate and fill these jobs. Another thing we're doing with the queue, which we're not going to open up because the game will lag if we open up the queue, is we are really attacking these unemployed pops pretty aggressively and building a lot where they are with our 1,000 things in the queue. This is kind of what we put in. This is our general strategy. We're going to really look to go after this because these pops don't grow as fast when they're unemployed, and so we're going to be building there. Even though it might be in some ways more efficient to try and ship the pops back, there really isn't a good way to form cultural communities. So if we take a look at cultures map mode, which should, present its own problems, we're looking specifically at Han, because we want the Han pops to migrate out, and we notice that there are going to be a few Han pops here and there. Basically, any place that forms a cultural community for Han is actually going to just get an enormous amount of population, so we see that Virginia has rolled lucky. There's also some Han in Idaho, God bless them potatoes, and then also was that Washington? No, that's Washington. I almost said it was in Ohio. This is real choppy. But also, I think there's a few in the British Isles. The main idea here being that if there was a way to control to emigrate the Han Pops, it would be much, much better. But the fact that we can't get cultural communities in a targeted way for them is a little bit of a bummer. Migration edicts do help, but after you've formed like a critical mass of, different cultural communities in a place, which, by the way, is one of the causes of lag. It's really hard to form a new one. So, for example, we do not have Han here, I don't think, and if we did, it would probably be one of the ones that is most in here. Actually, this is alphabetized. It's not based on order, so... Is it alphabetized? No, it's not. Just kidding. Alright. How is it even organized? Probably organized based on like some internal number, but we wish that we could emigrate Han Pops more dispersed across our entire nation, but the cultural communities mechanic makes it more targeted, and the fact that it's targeted means that some places just get lucky, like Virginia, where now we can build Virginia up really high, because I'm sure that Virginia actually has a decent amount of peasants, and they don't even have that much, but they do have the Han, so shout out to Virginia. We now have a very amusing option. See, France is actually still on the map. They're right here. This is France. And of course, that's a little awkward considering we're the Paris Convention. However, we can return state. We can return the French Republic. That's right. We're going to return the French Republic here, and that will be a nice little war goal that will be fully annexing them. Wow, they're even fearful with this. Hopefully they don't back down, because we don't have enough maneuvers to make everything primary. Oh, just kidding, we do. Just kidding. Everything's primary. Back down now. No, I don't think you will. Return us, the French Republic to Britain. We are running our first positive balance in forever after turning on the diesel engine pump tech. This is the kind of last good tech we will get in terms of improving the economy, and is one of the strongest techs in the game. Also unlocks compression ignition tractors, which we might even make use of kind of in really heavily populated areas that are fighting for pop. So for example, in the home counties, I don't think it'll make a difference. I think that these places will be kind of locked in on using exactly 1 or 1 to 2 levels here, because I think that they won't be profitable enough per worker. But this PM is absolutely insane in terms of profitability per worker, and maybe it's worth doing. But we see, like, in these really densely populated areas, which are the ones that we would want to make use of the compression ignition tractors, the fact that they are using edicts for other stuff is going to make it so that even this isn't profitable. But maybe someplace like the wheat farms here, if we turn on compression ignition tractors here, maybe this place will start to employ up a little bit, because we do not have a manufacturing decree in Wallonia. Looks like it doesn't like it. Looks like the weekly balance is negative. I think that maybe the grain price has just been too depressed at this point in time. But here's the crux of the issue. In order to stimulate the economy now, we are going to need to find out some stuff to spend on. And speaking of spending, we've actually been deleting a ton of military. It's very gratuitous, it's unnecessary, but maybe this is a bit of a mistake. We kind of want to free up workers. We're notably deleting a lot of the military in Europe and leaving the military in China and India, because we are having pop problems there. So we might end up recruiting and just kind of recomping our military in order to kind of boost the economy as much as possible. You can see that massive hitch up. That is diesel, or that is condensing engine pump there, which is going to be really good, and also going to increase demand for oil. We have been wanting to put in standard oil for forever, but we have yet to have oil appear in the Midwest, and we need a level 5 oil rig in the Midwest before we could slot in standard oil in terms of our companies. Standard oil is going to be a railway plus... Ooh, are we even... It looks like we're even hovering it. Standard oil is an oil plus... railway company that is particularly strong, and it's possible that it's maybe not even the best for us, but I think that there is a oil company that gives extra oil stuff, but I think we want to slot out our oil and coal company and make use of this one instead, and so we do like the oil rigs there. We also have multiple company bonuses, or have the potential for some extra throughput. We have the 10% here. We have the religious folk one, which, to be fair, we're actually thinking of just going off of religion entirely and just going off of religious schools, but we have enough, we can make them have enough clout to be not marginalized. The problem is they don't approve of us. We tried exiling an authoritarian, thinking that we were going to get a social democrat, but we accidentally missed this guy when we were exiling generals, and so we got a jingoist instead. Blah. At these levels of construction, the autoqueue does some weird things. In particular, they are very aggressive. If you have built infrastructure, that's when they start being able to kind of more utilize the investment pool and build out. You can see we're at 61% usage here, and despite that, we're still contributing 17 mil to the investment pool every tick. But you get weird aberrations like we had built an abundance of infrastructure here in Chongqing, and the AI is just like, let's build a level 400 paper mill here. Now they're not going to go over the infrastructure, but I'm pretty sure this is going to bring us kind of up to the infrastructure limit. But in either case, just like maybe not even the best place for a paper mill. We're gonna go for synthetics plants level 51 here as well. This is our highest unemployment state in the entire game, and that's kind of why we're attacking this, but probably not after we get 500 paper mills. But you can see here 2.8 million levels of unemployment, and to be fair, this is an industry that is... we forgot to pause because a war just started. This is an industry that paper mills don't really have very good labor-saving PMs, so in terms of PMs or industries we would pick, and we'll probably stay on hand assembly, this will probably be decent for us, and the dyes that we are going to make off the synthetic plants can feed into the paper mills. The synthetic plants also don't have any labor-saving PMs, and so this is a reasonable look for the purposes of getting rid of peasants. We might even turn on automobiles, to be honest. We hate the PM, and actually, no, we're not turning on automobiles. We'll die before we turn on automobiles. The most expensive thing in our market by far is oil. We're working on expanding it as much as possible. We really want the Standard Oil Company, though, because that'll give us like 40% more oil overall after you consider all the bonuses we're getting. Maybe not 40, like 30, something like that. So we have for a long time just been way over authority cap, and so any change we make is highly committal in terms of removing anything, because we'll never be able to put anything in with authority before. Again, this is from when we had the vassalization principle and we had a whole bunch of subjects, so we had this much authority, but now we're nowhere near it. This is very committal. I think we're going to stop taxing services here. And the reason being is we want our pops to grow in SOL, we want them to consume a little bit more, we want to be running a deficit, and we can always raise taxes if we really want to kind of return to some sort of situation. But this is, in terms of the stuff we're taxing, this is the stuff that most negatively affects the lower rung pops, who have a middling SOL of 17.4. We would prefer if it was exactly 20. This is what we would go for to maximize population growth, and so we'll remove that. It's a little bit committal. We already removed the one for opium, and we're never going to be able to put it back in ever. As far as principles go, we're 21 months away from we're probably going to take food 1 principle, and then look to take food 2. I don't know if we're not going to be able to do too much more than that. Maybe it was a mistake to swap onto Trade League. I think overall it's probably fine. The 10% company throughput bonus is a pretty nice one, especially once we get an oil company. We've also conquered the rest of Central and South America, so the Americas are fully conquered except for this, which we'll never finish colonizing ever. Again, just picking up stragglers here for the most part and trying to play more around kind of maximizing GDP or something to this effect by the time we're done with this conquest. Man, I wonder when the AI is going to do a cut down to size play on us. Okay, this is an interesting one in the home counties. We have 5,600 financial districts in the home counties. Great, sure, fine. Well, what's the strangeness? Well, the home counties, as you may know, has coal, it has a little bit of fish, it has some wood, and okay, the coal's what it is. But we're running a transportation shortage, and the reason we're running a transportation shortage is because we have so many so rich pops here that are eating up all this transportation that we can't possibly provide it all. Now, another problem is that they are competing for labor. You see, like, just about every building is competing for labor with stuff like the financial districts themselves. And so it's really hard for it to be super profitable to be building railroads. And so we just have a bunch of railroads. We have a bunch of infrastructure. I don't think we need any infrastructure. But the price on this is maxed out despite basically not having it go into any PMs just based off of population consumption because there's so much wealth here in the home counties. Okay, so anarchy is kind of a meme, and it sucks. And this minus 50% authority is kind of bad, but it really doesn't matter considering our authority situation where we're over the authority budget and we're never ever raking it back, and we're just accepting this minus 10 opposition interest group approval and plus 20% radicals from standard living increases. So actually, anarchy wouldn't be too bad, specifically the +2 government size allowance. We're kind of a fan of that. I mean, I kind of think it's probably worse than universal suffrage, but there is an achievement for going anarchy with the UK, and we haven't gotten it yet. So I think we're going to make a little bit of a move in that we're going to invite this alcoholic, this gentleman here, who is now the head of, our agitators, not the head of our interest group, because that's not how the interactions work. Ooh, he's persistent. Nice with the health. Of course, this gives minus on the health, but it do be like that. And then we're going to grant him leadership, so now he's in charge of everything. And then we're going to go ahead and pass anarchy. Why can't we pass anarchy? We need cooperative ownership. Oh, man. Real. We wanted to stay laissez-faire. That sucks. Well, I mean, we could. Kind of don't want to. Kind of don't want the headache in the middle of doing all this. Of course, we could rev, switch sides, and then, if we rev and switch sides, we'll be down to 0 infamy again. So the overall amount of credit line we have is 5 billion. So this minus 2 million is really inconsequential. We just kicked up government wages quite a bit. We probably should have been doing this a while ago, considering that we are trying to bring up our lower rung pops, but we also just don't want to overshoot it. And so we have to be a little bit careful because we want our lower rung pops to get to 20 SOL and then stay there. So we want them to just kind of right at 20 SOL. And so the lower strata, the laborers and these types of people, getting an additional 30% in all of the buildings, should be able to kick them up. If they get above middling, we'll actually probably decrease government wages. If they get above 20, or significantly above 20, we'll probably do that. We're also adding more construction because why not? Because, I mean, if the computer just keeps crashing because we have too much construction, then we just have to call it a run. And then we don't have to sit, just watching the little powers just slowly get annexed time after time after time. Just kind of a little bit of progress report here is that we are waiting to be able to give a progress report. We are on only 24 nations left remaining in the world, not including, of course, the colonization or the colony that we will never ever finish. In fact, they all fit. After this next war? No. Everyone who is not decentralized now fits on the ledger right here. So this is everyone who's left. They who remain. I think we wanted to stay on capitalism forever, but here's the thing. The investment pool is just growing by 20 million. And if it's just growing by 20 million always and forever, even if we have 50,000 construction, then I think what we're going to do is, but we're going to overshoot the SOL for pop growth, though. But this money is just getting hemorrhaged from the economy, effectively speaking. And so, God, the thing is we don't have enough construction to do this, to drain this, and with the amount of construction we have, the amount that's getting transferred out is 14 million, right? And that's with it controlling nearly 75% of the queue, so we would need like 100,000 construction in order to get this investment pool drained to drain out correctly. Which, I mean, maybe we could do, like, in theory, but, like, in practice, this is the state of things on my computer, so a theoretical highest GDP possible, I think, is one where you can fully drain this investment pool under laissez-faire, but practically speaking, we can't make 100,000 construction, I don't think. I mean, that would be hubris, wouldn't it? We're officially flying close to the sun with over 50,000 construction. Now, again, with kind of our overall strategy, we are targeting places that have less or have more unemployment rather than anything else, rather than trying to find the absolute perfect place to build. But for our expanding our construction, we just put down 30 construction sectors on every Mappy River, pretty much. It's hard to imagine that this is a mistake, and I think that this will help out. We also, in particular, when sorting by the unemployment, we are going to have some sensitivity to the fact that we want to bring buildings up to level 50 so that they get the max economies scale. So we're going to be doing that as well in terms of our strategy here. So when we're coming in and putting in some more stuff in the queue, looking to kind of attack this unemployment, we are going to be just 50ing stuff like textile mills, also food industries, in order to drive it, in order to get rid of this unemployment. Food industries in particular have pretty good mappy when there's no resources available there, and also they employ up a lot of pops, and so this is a pretty good choice for attacking unemployment. In theory, cars might be kind of okay, but we currently aren't using automobiles. Automobiles use so much oil, and our oil is at plus 54. We are using it for the fertilizer, so we could just stop doing that, but I don't want to create a demand for automobiles because it's really not that efficient, and it kind of kills your motor industries as well. I just realized that, okay, maybe we don't have to go cooperative ownership. A little bit late on the realization, maybe, but we should be able to decrease the investment pool contribution just by downgrading from, being, publicly traded to privately owned. So let's take a look at how much we're generating right now. So change plus 25 million plus this 12 million that's transferring, so 37 million a week, and we will just swap everything over, and we will get a whole bit of a lag, which is kind of par of the course at this point. Also actually terrified that cooperative ownership, the seizing of ownership, might actually just kill the run, like, entirely. Like, it'll just, it won't be able to recalculate ownership. But we should see this update on a Monday, which maybe we should pause and come back. Or maybe I should just show you guys how quickly the Mondays are going here. Someone has the case of the Mondays. You don't say. You don't say. Well, okay, so I guess we will be reading a book together. Okay, we updated on a Monday. Alright, so now we're gonna rehover and see if it's any change. No, it's not really any change. Alright, fair enough. Or is the Monday just not calculated yet? Who knows? Alright, this is the moment of truth. Will this absolutely destroy everything? Will it freeze forever, never to be unfrozen? Who knows what fate awaits the run? It's also going to keep lagging even more after this, as it slowly brutalizes the ownership class. So this is going to force privatization. We should see all of these financial districts. These should go away. Why did it pause? It was like, we can't handle this. We need help. Send an adult. But all of these should go away as everything gets privatized. Will it come in waves? Actually, let's get into a different menu. Let's look at buildings. Hold the phone. Bueller. Alright, say goodbye to 82,000 financial districts. Which, by the way, should actually decrease the lag somewhat, because we're not having to keep track of these financial district buildings anymore, and instead everything's going to be local. I said everything's going to be local. Oh god. Why aren't you seizing the means of production, you guys? Guys, what are you doing? Why aren't you seizing the means of production? Oh my god, 2,500 at a time? No, it's going to take forever. These only went down by 2,500, not like this. This is the worst seizing of the means of production of all time. Alright guys, so 5 crashes, and then just waiting for the program to respond for like 10 minutes later, we managed to sell off on the next Monday 20,000 of these financial districts. Now, I don't know if the game is going to be able to keep handling this, but this is pretty important if we want to hit 20 billion GDP, because we're going to be putting in a whole bunch of things simultaneously, kind of at the very end of the game here, and so we will be taking another Monday, and by taking another Monday, I'm going to invite... Wow, we can't even get to the Monday. Okay. But I was just going to invite you to see if this freezes up again, and then we're just going to wait for it to respond for another 10 minutes. And so, but eventually, in theory, we should be able to sell all these financial districts down. Look at one of these financial districts has apparently got a profitability of 5,500. That's insane. And so here comes the Monday tick, and with it will come the freezing of the guard. Look at this. I could have sworn I just saw one of those tick up a little bit. And by freezing the guard, I guess we're going to have to wait some amount of time for it to freeze, and then for it to say, okay, you know what, just kidding, and I won't put you through that, but we're having a time. This is a true gamer moment here. Okay. After spending about 40 minutes getting through freezing every Monday, because it's just lagging so hard that the game freezes and asks if you want to force close, I realized we actually can't go cooperative ownership yet, because we get +1 max number of companies. So we have to get all of the companies that we want slotted in, the very best companies in slot. We have to get this first. And so we're going to cease enacting cooperative ownership. This is so anticlimactic for me. I can't emphasize enough that we literally got through to August and had gotten through almost all the buildings, and every single time it took us like actual 40 minutes to get through to the next month, because every Monday the game would freeze. This is an absolute brutal slog, but we have several companies that we can't slot in yet that we want. We want in Usima, we need to wait 3 years to get Usima for Nokia. We need to wait on the integration of Kansai, which is going to be 8 years, so we can't pass this until 32, which is a little bit rough. And we're probably going to need to juggle it while we're doing this, because Kansai, we could just give up on the Kansai company. And then finally, Standard Oil, we haven't spawned, because the oil events block each other, we haven't yet spawned enough oil in the Midwest. Because you can only roll so many oil events, it seems, or like this has been forever for us to discover all the oil, and I think it's just because we have every province, and so we haven't gotten the oil in the Midwest. We've gotten 3 in Ohio, we need 5 in Ohio if we are to slot in Standard Oil, and so a little bit rough and very, very disheartening. I don't know, I'm gonna have a little bit of a think here. Okay, after a bit of thought, I think we're going to conclude the episode and the run here. I'm still going to call it a world conquest. Obviously, it's not a pure full world conquest, but the only barrier here is really the sanity portion, as well as the time portion. It's very clear that this is possible. Every 100 days we can declare war, and we can annex these 10 powers very, very easily in basically 5 years, because we're reducing autonomy on Baden right now. It would just be 5 years from now we would be finishing off with Baden, and it'd just be incredibly straightforward. So I'm going to call this a world conquest. If you disagree with me calling it this, feel free to let me know in the comments. I think that this is, to call it an almost world conquest when it's like just this much remaining, I think is like also inaccurate in some ways, but in some ways it's maybe more accurate. I do think where we could have gone, so 51k is roughly 75% of 69. I was definitely trying to get 69,000 construction after we had finished arc welding, which would have been about how much we would get. If I recall correctly, the steel frame gives 15 construction, arc welding gives 20. Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay, it's 10 and 20, or 10 and 15. In which case, we would have gotten up to around 75,000. We would have had to delete down construction, so... But 75,000 is probably not going to help us out too much more, because this episode we started with like 50 million unemployed, and now it's down to 12 million, and it would just be recomping our economy. In terms of the path to 20 billion, it might not look like we've gained too much GDP over the course of this episode, but there's a lot of things that we were going to do towards the very end in order to facilitate this, and I do think 20 billion would have been possible. I think we would have ended up with around 2 billion pops, and so we just need 10 GDP per capita, which is relatively high, but what we would have done is we would have changed up our companies. There were 2 companies we wanted to slot in specifically, or there were 3 companies we wanted to slot in. We wanted to slot in Matsui, and this would have given us companies on lead, fertilizer, and very importantly, clothing. We have a ton of clothing manufacturers. This would have helped pull up, our SOL, which would have increased the basket of buy orders. Also, once we got onto... let's talk about the companies first, in terms of what we are going to be slotting in. We also were looking and had been talking about this for some time for both Nokia and Standard Oil. Nokia would have replaced our current electrical company, giving us access to also paper and wood, as well as giving us a synthetics plant building throughput, which I think we actually would have started using the rayon, even though it consumes wood. We have wood company. Wood is fairly abundant. This seems fairly straightforward. It's also pretty efficient per pop, and the electric industry's throughput an additional 10%. We would be getting a lot of throughput there. And then finally, Standard Oil, when we do finally get one in the Midwest, we would be able to slot in if we discover the oil in the Midwest. Although maybe we wouldn't by the end, giving us 20% railways building throughput and giving us access to rail and oil. But very, very importantly, we're currently getting 30% bonus. We're getting 10% from the Paris Convention, of course. Who could forget the Paris Convention? 10% from our prestige and 10% from the base value, so that's 30%. But what the plan was to at the very end, go back to state religion, make sure we have a whole bunch of generals and admirals right now that we can promote up, and we would promote these guys up and swap back to state religion and try and get them above 20% clout for an additional, or I guess it wouldn't be 20 or 50% total bonus, it'd be a total of 40% company throughput bonus on a whole ton of industries. So the Nokia would give us a wood, paper, or Standard Oil would give us oil and railways. Nokia would give us wood, paper, and electrical, and the other one we looked at, Mitsui, would give the loudest car outside, lead, clothing and fertilizer. We would be slotting out this company because we also have New Russia Limited slot in. We would be slotting out the Kaiping Mining Company because we already have a coal company, and we would be slotting out Empresas Electricias Asociadas. I think we'd also probably slot this out for something. I haven't really decided what that something would be. Maybe something that would give furniture and glass, maybe generic furniture and glass, just to kind of bring things up a bit. Then we had Society Aname John Cockrell, and of course New Russia Limited. You know what actually might be a decent slot in for this is rubber, because rubber is kind of the last thing that is particularly expensive for us here, and so getting a whole bunch of throughput on rubber, especially because it doesn't have access to throughput, would be pretty good. We were also going to come in and do food, the food level 3. Can we not look at the food level 3? Okay. Which would give us minus mortality. A little bit late to the party. We definitely could have executed the trade league thing a lot better, the trade league swap. We definitely should have. We could have done it so that we would have been maxed out on principles by game end, but now there's no way to do it. But the minus mortality, agricultural throughput, and efficient canning makes it 10% more net on the, roughly speaking, just by adding additional groceries, so that's pretty strong. We would have done that. And then towards the very end, we were also going to switch on to not graduated taxation, but consumption taxes. And then, you know, within the last 2 years, we would have gotten rid of all the consumption taxes. And within the last 2 years, we would have also tried to crank up as much construction as possible, maybe 100,000. Something like this would be easily achievable. And then, well, if the game would allow it, you know, without crashing. We crashed a whole bunch a little while back. But also mobilize the army. I'm not sure exactly what is the most cost efficient or the most pop efficient for creating buy orders, but the idea is that all of our PMs would be creating a lot of buy orders, especially with all the mobilization options, and we would do this to increase the price of everything in our market. And by increasing the price of everything in the market, if you have 10,000 sellers and they're at 50, then you would have 500,000, but if they're at 100, then you would have 1 million in terms of GDP creation. So even if it was not sustainable towards the very end of the game, we would look to just run up a massive amount of debt, increasing the prices of everything so that the GDP would be really high. I think conservatively, 18 billion would have been easily achievable, and maybe the top end 25 to 30 billion. 30 billion seems like maybe a little bit of a pipe dream. We didn't really have much tech left to go. We had this in terms of tech that we would meaningfully be able to implement, and Art Silk, and then also film. These were kind of the last texts that were maybe going to give us anything in the Department of Economics. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else here. Oh, I guess there's modern financial instruments, which would give us a little bit of minting. Government dividends efficiency is not relevant for what we were going to be doing. Also, when we made this swap on over to Council Republic, or cooperative ownership rather, what would have happened here is this would have dramatically increased SOL, and currently, because all the ownership would be giving all of their money to buy orders for goods, or the shopkeepers and farmers have a very small reinvestment rather, and so the rest, the lion's share, would be going towards goods, which would be preferable because currently our investment pool is absolutely huge, and it is super caked up as a result of there's just too much is going to the investment pool. We can't possibly make use of it. Maybe if we had 200,000 construction, and we're actually running like high taxes with like 200,000 construction. Look at this, we make 33 million on high taxes. But if we did this and we ran 200,000 construction, there just wouldn't be enough stuff to construct. Currently, with us going up to around 75,000, I think we would have stuff to construct as we recomped the economy. It's not just a matter of getting rid of all the peasants and unemployed, but once you got rid of all the peasants and unemployed, we would be working to turn everything that is not currently on a labor-saving PM, to the very tip-top labor-saving PMs. So the furniture, I think that most of our furniture worldwide is actually not on a labor or is on water tube or lower, and so we would want to get everything to rotary valves, something like this. But this was kind of the things I had planned out, and I wanted to articulate them because we're not going to get to execute them, but I do think we would have gotten the GDP really high up there. I think that, if you can feel free to disagree with me, but I'm just trying to be, I'm trying to explain what would have happened after an additional 10 hours of play, because I just don't have it in me. And I think that you guys don't want me to spend, if I have 10 hours to make videos, I don't think you want me to spend the time just staring at the screen for like 10 hours, which is basically what this is basically what like the past 9 hours have been. And I'm also not enjoying myself at this point making this, although I was interested in seeing the theoretical, getting the thumbnails and like this type of stuff, but honestly it like kind of looks like we have a world conquest anyways, because the only thing that's left is like this little snippet right here, and so we might use that. We were probably going to use this in the thumbnail anyways. Yeah, let's just go over some of the data and compare us to the other countries. We have 100 times the prestige of the next biggest guy, which is our subject. Okay, there's no need to compare ourselves to anyone else here. We do have a pretty high SOL, and the SOL is cranking up. Important to note that when the SOL is cranking up still, that means your GDP is going to go up, because when you have a big enough excess, although the success isn't that big, this means pops are going to promote. When they promote, they buy a bigger basket of goods. This pushes up prices. And so when your SOL trajectory is going up, even if you didn't produce any more buildings, your GDP would still rise, but the price is rising. Although I think that we're pretty close to leveling out here with what we have going on here. Also, it's your wealth level, not your SOL. That's something I always get wrong, because the two are very close, but your wealth level informs your buy basket, not your SOL. So the fact that we are getting SOL from what we had just gotten in with our institutions, we're going to get some SOL from health systems. This is not going to affect people's buy basket, the additional 0.5 standard of living. But the minus mortality is really going to be pretty nice, especially when stacked. I think stacking it makes it better with the food company, and maybe the food company is really, really good, or not food company, the food principal. I need to take a look at some of the math on this. It's kind of hard to evaluate for me. We definitely could have done better here. I think though, for this run, 18 to 25 billion would have been what we would have hit. Maybe 30 billion, if we're being optimistic. I think theoretically, if you are playing to maximize endgame GDP, based on this run, I think that probably 35 to 40 billion is probably possible. I think you maybe don't start as the UK though, maybe you start as Qing, although maybe with the UK is actually particularly good for the Anglican Church company throughput bonus. This 10% company throughput bonus, I don't know if there's a better economic bonus than this. Overall, the difference with Qing is Qing would get sericulture, and also Qing you would be able to very early on maximize pop growth by using food standardization yourself, so that the global population, if you started as Qing, you could probably shoot for 2.5 billion or even 3 billion instead of what we would have hit, which is kind of around 2 billion. And we could have been more aggressive about doing this earlier on, but I didn't even think we were going, when initially I didn't think we were actually going for a world conquest, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. Maybe if you guys are interested in me doing a video just to kind of talking about what I think world conquest meta looks like, feel free to comment below. I think that what we did is probably pretty close, but you turned the corner way earlier than what we did. We kind of stayed low infamy for almost as long as possible before swapping on up, and I think that was probably unnecessary because you probably should turn the corner just kind of way earlier, maybe even as soon as you get multiculturalism, because you want to go total separation and multiculturalism so you don't have as many separatist movements, and then once you have the two of those, you kind of don't have too many separatist movements. But this is maybe a video that we could do some other time. This is getting on pretty long, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and this run. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, especially this episode. This episode is like... This took so long to do. I just like... I'm mainly doing it because I want to theoretically know, and I know that some of the regulars who watch like almost all of my stuff or more of my stuff are going to be more interested in this type of thing. But like on a per hour basis, this is just like terrible ROI for like content production. But it was pretty interesting to see it. And also, like, really a couple episodes ago when we turned the corner, and then it was a bit of an aha moment with having the guy who has Reckless. I don't think this guy has Reckless. No, he doesn't. But having the guy who's Reckless with the power block for offense it was just insane how many maneuvers we could put in. But anyways, I already said the YouTube algorithm thing, so there's only one more thing for you guys for me to say here.
Now, children, I was asked to bring a healthy snack, so join me in the hall for swine livers and Capri Suns.